'Cause We're Nerds, the podcast that covers trends and new releases in comics, movies, video games, board games, and much more. I'm your host, Caleb, and with me is my wife, Courtney.
Hello, everyone.
In preparation for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, we're taking a look back at the first two installments in the trilogy. Today, we're focusing on The Last Jedi. Being perhaps the most divisive Star Wars movie ever, is it as bad as everyone thinks? Or does it hold the spark to light the fire to finish the Skywalker saga? Find out on this week's episode of 'Cause We're Nerds. Welcome back, Courtney.
Thank you for having me.
You were trying to laugh at my light the fire thing, huh?
Yes. More because there was a song playing in my head after that.
Does it start the fire?
Yep.
Oh, man. So last week we talked about The Force Awakens with Jacob. Jacob was a tad busy this week, so I brought in the best person to fill in for him.
Aw, thanks. I often wonder if people hear, like, when you announce who the host or who your co-host is for the week, if they're like, oh, that person, delete. It's okay. That might end up being me.
I'm sure that's not the case.
I don't know about that.
All right, so this week we are talking about The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Obviously, as I said, it is the most divisive Star Wars movie ever. I would say far more divisive than even the prequels.
Really?
Yes, very much so.
I don't love the prequels.
Yeah, but the prequels are generally, at least historically, pretty much not liked by fans. But The Last Jedi, man, Rian Johnson took the Star Wars fan base and completely split it. You've got the people on one side who are like, I hate this movie. Not only do I hate this movie, I hate Rian Johnson and I wish he would die. And
it's a little intense.
It is intense. It's very intense. And I'm not exaggerating. And then you've got people on the other side who are like, no, this is a great movie. I love this movie. And it's a really weird one to talk about because of that. I think generally you hear the people that don't like it more because, as with most things, they're more outspoken.
Yep. Those cranky people.
Yeah, and I don't know, that's weird, but we will get into it. So, this, of course, is the second movie in the trilogy following up from The Force Awakens. This is only the third time I have seen this movie ever. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think I've seen it 3 times.
That would make sense.
Yeah. I think I went with you, because we did it twice in the movie theater.
Yeah, we saw it twice in theaters.
I just remember the first time being miserable.
Oh, yeah, it was really, really hot.
That was the worst experience.
Yeah, we went and saw it with some friends, and we saw it at a different theater than we normally go to. And it was so hot. I think we were on the very top row.
Yes.
And so all the heat, it was already hot in there, but then all the heat was going up towards us. Mm-hmm. And I think we were in recliners, right?
Yes, and we were all wearing, like, winter clothes. So, like, you could take off as many layers as you could, but there came a point where there were no more layers you could take off. But we were just, like, drenched in sweat. It was horrible. And it made watching the movie 10 times worse.
Yeah, that is true. I kind of forgot about that. And then I think we had another group of friends that wanted to go see it. So that's why we saw it again. Or maybe it was Jacob. I don't really remember, to be honest.
I don't either.
That was 2 years ago.
Jacob was there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I haven't seen this movie in 2 years. I haven't seen it since then.
Yeah, right.
So coming back to it, I was curious because hearing people hate it so much, I was curious if I was going to see the film differently than I did originally. And honestly, I kind of did a little bit.
Oh, really?
So I came out of the theater saying that this movie was my favorite Star Wars movie.
I do remember that.
And I said, it has the lowest lows, I understand that, but it also has the highest highs. Mm-hmm. And that was my argument for why it was my favorite. Watching it this time, I've shifted a little bit. I still think it is probably my favorite Star Wars movie, if I had to pick one. Which is weird, because I thought that actually wouldn't be the case. Mm-hmm. I still think it has the highest highs. I don't think it's got the lowest lows anymore. I think the prequels blow it out of the water when it comes to the lowest lows.
Those prequels.
I think that Attack of the Clones specifically is far more boring than this film.
I don't remember which number that one is.
2.
Okay.
That's the one where they're on Geonosis and it's got the clones, all that jazz.
All that jazz.
So anyway, yeah, so I really enjoy it. What about you?
As someone who's not super critical, I did enjoy the movie. I didn't really have issues the first time I saw it. I really don't like the prequels. They are very annoying to me. And so it's hard for me to, like, imagine that one of the other Star Wars movies would be worse than those. There are a couple of things about this movie that I didn't like, but I feel like that's kind of the reason that it didn't go the way I wanted it to is more in how things were set up by J.J. Abrams, who did
Episode 7.
Episode 7. But I wanted the name.
Oh, The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that for a second. So Jacob and I kind of talked about this last week a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think that there are 2 really big reasons for the backlash to this film. Mm-hmm. And I think they are partially founded, and I think in many ways they are not founded. Mm-hmm. The first reason that people have an issue with this movie, I think, is because it doesn't portray Luke Skywalker in the way that they had built him up to be portrayed for the last 30 years.
Oh, see, I don't have a problem with that. I think that the way he's portrayed makes complete sense.
See, that's the number one complaint of a lot of people is the way...
Really?
Yeah, the way he is portrayed, because... So in the original expanded universe, before they got rid of all of that, this is not how he was. He was very much more sagely, kind of like an Obi-Wan type, who had grown strong in the Force and was very wise. Not this crotchety old man who is frustrated.
But I feel like, even in this expanded universe, like, I feel like there was a point where he was like that. And I think things shifted and he realized all the bad or like the things that he did wrong, and so he became this frustrated old man who kind of like became a hermit for a reason. He felt like his power, like, it got to his head essentially.
Yeah.
And so like he's stepping away. I think the issue that people should, it makes sense that happened. What they want is a movie that's in between it. That they can see him being the sage that he was. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point. I've never thought of it that way. Because I've always thought of it like, oh, I just don't mind this version. Because I'm with you. I think it makes a lot of sense when you track what all of the other Jedi have kind of done. Going into exile is apparently part of being a Jedi Master. I mean...
No.
Yeah, Yoda did it. Obi-Wan done it. Luke's done it now. And I mean, when you look at his life, I mean, he didn't have his parents around. He had his aunt and uncle who were burned to a crisp. They were gone. He went off on this journey. He found this old weird guy who taught him more about the Force. He died. Obi-Wan died. He went through this whole thing. Finally, he gets to the end. He gets to his father, who he helps redeem. He dies, and he's like, all right, I'm done with all of that. It's behind me. I'm gonna pour what I have spent the last 10 years of my life into rebuilding this thing. And it fails. And not only does it fail, but he turned his nephew...
Right, which he was... he was given this special, gift to be able to train his nephew.
Yeah.
By his sister. And to fail there, I think it makes complete sense that he's taken solace and become a hermit. Because he feels like he's paying penance.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm saying this right. For the crimes that he committed and, failing his nephew. It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why people have issues.
And not only that, but he also... lost all of his other students who were slaughtered. And I think a lot of people kind of forget, yes, Ben is Han's son, but he is Luke's nephew.
And also his apprentice.
Yeah, but I think like that familiar relationship is often overlooked because it's not focused on. The relationship that's focused on is really him and Han. Obviously, Leia is the mother as well. But there's that bond there, and he failed.
And there's clearly a large amount of time in between when, like, to allow him to grow and be those things, but they didn't choose to tell that story.
Exactly. So a lot of people are upset about that. That's one reason. The other reason that people, I think, really had feelings about this movie is because of the mystery box that Jacob and I talked about last week. And Courtney, I think we've talked about this.
Yes, we have. And this is one of the things that upset me. And that would be who's Rey's parents.
Yeah.
And who is Rey.
Yeah. All the things that were built up in the first one really aren't paid off here.
Right. Like, you're made to think that she's some important person and that she was related to someone important or related to a Jedi or something, and you want to know her backstory and you want to know like who she was related to, and to find out that her parents are no one and that she's really just nobody is crazy to me. And I do feel like in this upcoming movie, I feel like JJ is going to be like, okay, no, that was not how I wanted that mystery box to go. Because I feel like there was such an outcry on that. I feel like it's going to be like switched and be like, just kidding. Her parents are really this. Yeah.
And it's not just that, like, it didn't pay off. A lot of fans will kind of say that, well, all the mysteries, they were kind of spit in the face of, right? Everything that was built up was torn down. And I see that argument. I think it's a valid argument. They did tear away a lot of things. In fact, I remember walking out of the theater saying, well, that felt like the conclusion to the trilogy. I don't know what they're going to do now.
Right.
But talking about Rey's parentage specifically, something I noticed watching the movie this time, my take on that whole who her parents are thing for the last 2 years or so has been, well, I've always taken that as an insult. Like, I never took that as him actually telling her who her parents were, because why would he know? I took it as he is trying to manipulate her. Watching it this time, that explanation actually doesn't make sense at all, because there's a conversation I either forgot about or missed right before that throne room scene. And if you watch it, you see that Rey says she had a vision about Kylo and that he turns to the light side. Kylo says he had a vision about Rey.
That she turns to the dark side.
That they joined forces and she turns to the dark side. And at the end of that, he says, and then I tell you who your parents are. I completely missed that part. The interesting thing is, they're actually both right. They interpreted it wrong. They do both team up. They do briefly become on the same side when they're in the throne room. He does betray the dark side, as Rey said, in killing Snoke. And she doesn't come to the dark side, but she joins him, which is actually what he says. But they're both wrong about the circumstances and what that means. So when he tells her who her parents are, he saw that through his vision, right? And since his vision was not actually really correct, it was kind of warped. I think this is a really easy thing to get out of.
Well, I thought there was a point, and maybe I'm remembering this wrong. I thought he said, you know the truth about your parents. And she says they were nobody, and he adds to that they were just like some poor drunken people. But doesn't she say they were nobody?
He definitely asks her. I don't remember if she says it first or if he says it first.
Okay.
But even if she says it first, I mean,
it doesn't matter even if she does. I agree with you. I think it's a simple way of fixing it. But, like, what's funny is that this time when I was watching, I took it as a manipulation. Like, he was trying to get her to think, like, like, in her head.
Right.
So I think it's funny that, because I don't think we ever talked about how you took it the last time.
Yeah, because of the line where he says, and then I tell you about your parents in his vision. That's why I feel like it really came more out of the vision. But again, you know, like I said, that's something super easy that you could explain away.
Right.
Say he was clouded.
And I guess the reason I didn't really pay attention to the part of the vision is because I foresee that vision, like, I didn't think that vision had happened yet. I was waiting for it to happen in this next movie.
Yeah, no, it was foreshadowing the whole throne room scene.
Okay. Which is the best scene.
It is the best part of the whole movie. It is. When I talk about the highest highs, that's what I'm talking about. I know a lot of people complain about the choreography here. Like, if you look in the background, the, I don't know what they're called, but
Stop being nitpicky.
The red people aren't doing anything. They're kind of just waiting around for their turn to jump in and attack. But you don't notice that.
They're waiting patiently.
Right, for their turn.
They're being friendly. They don't want to, like, just cut in. But we're taught manners.
You're not going to notice that when the movie's going, like, the first time. Like, when you're in it, you're
just focused in the front part of it.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's just the best part of the whole movie.
Yes.
Now, one part that is probably considered the worst part of the whole movie is the whole Canto Bight sequence. Pretty much anything that has to do with Finn. Canto Bight is the name of the casino that they go to. Mm-hmm. But really, the issue people have is the whole Finn subplot. And I do remember coming out of the theater saying that whole thing could have been cut.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be here.
It was mainly there to give that character something to do.
Right. And it had nothing to do with the plot.
No.
It was completely different. Watching it this time, I still have that opinion. I still think, yes, it could have been cut. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really affect the plot in the least. Even when you come all the way back around, basically what ends up happening is because they're betrayed, and that alerts the First Order to the ships that are escaping, right? The escape pods. But if you cut all that, you could just say that they were scanning for the escape pods, and they found them that way.
I thought they said that. I thought they had, like, cloaking things on the escape pods.
No, so their explanation in the movie as it stands is that they aren't scanning for small escape pods.
Gotcha.
So that's how they get away. And then DJ betrays them and tells them where to look, and they find the pods.
Gotcha.
So if you were to eliminate the entire Finn subplot, the solution is they just the escape pods popped up on their scanners.
Gotcha.
So it really is completely useless.
But then how would the kid at the end get the ring?
You know, that is the least of my concerns.
And the little weird horsey creature things get out.
They wouldn't. But we never would have known they existed.
Well, that's true.
But watching it this time, I went with it. It was fun. I still agree it's not necessary, but it didn't bother me at all. I was just like, okay, well, I know this is in here now. This is kind of fun. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I did previously. And I think that it's because I was just going with it instead of, because I know it's in there. This happens with me a lot with movies. After I know something's in there and I'm used to it, it bothers me less because I just take it for what the movie is. You know, I can't change that now. Why be angry about it?
Yes, you're very level-headed like that.
Yeah. So I actually really like that. What's your whole take on that whole, like, subplot with Finn and Rose?
I didn't like it in the beginning. I just kind of thought it was stupid. This go around, I didn't really have an opinion of it, or it didn't really bother me. It was there. I mean, whatever.
All right. Now, the big elephant in the room going into the rise of Skywalker is that two of our original trilogy leads in the films are dead. Han and Luke.
Right.
The remaining one has passed away in real life.
Yes.
How?
Very sadly.
Very suddenly, very sad. How do you write her into this final movie and it not be weird?
I don't know how. Like, I don't know. I know that they've talked about how they've had leftover footage from other things, and they had some footage that she had filmed that they had not used, which I guess was leftover footage. But I know they're planning on using that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that her plot line will be smaller, but it'll be powerful and meaningful because of who she was and because she's no longer with us. I'm just not sure if that will be in her passing away in the movies or, like, I know we've talked about, like, her just, like, going off and no longer being the princess and that kind of stuff. But I don't really know how.
Well, basically what they're doing is they're taking, like you said, unused footage, and they are...
Sorry.
Bless you.
That was a cough.
I know it was a cough. I can still bless you.
Okay.
And they're building the scene, the story around these things that she had shot.
Okay.
I think they only had maybe like 7 minutes of footage to work with. And obviously they've only got whatever lines she recorded to use for her dialogue. So I'm really curious to see, because really each one has gotten a movie. The Force Awakens was Han's movie.
Right.
The Last Jedi was Luke's movie. And the intention for The Rise of Skywalker was for it to be Leia's movie. And when you've only got 7 minutes of footage to work with, I don't really know how you make it her movie.
I don't know.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I think they will kill her off in the film.
You don't have to say it so intensely.
Well, I wasn't trying to.
No, I don't. I do think that her time will end because that is kind of like everything's coming to an end.
Right.
And that's the point. That the main story of Star Wars is ending.
Yeah.
And therefore, like, because Luke's time didn't, like, Luke and Han, their time didn't have to end. It wasn't like they were, you know, it was their point in the thing. They just had it end. So I do think hers will end. I don't know how. And I don't know how they'll do the whole movie around her with such a small amount, but...
Well, I don't think it is around her anymore to that extent.
Gotcha.
Clearly she's in it. But I think they had to really pull back on that side of it.
Gotcha.
I think if they don't kill her character off, it's going to feel weird. Like, I see on one hand it feeling weird. Why would you kill her character when she actually passed away in real life? But if you ignore that and just look narratively at the trilogy, to really have closure of the whole thing, you really need to kill her character off.
Yeah. Do you think it'll be done by her son? Ooh, what if? It's not Kylo, but what if the death of his mom changes him to the light side? Because he had the chance to kill her.
And he didn't.
And he didn't. Because that's his mama.
I don't know. I think that if they had done whatever they wanted to do, or whatever they had planned, that might have been the way it goes. I don't know how you do that using existing footage, though. I mean, I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know how that would... I don't know. Because basically, at the end of this movie, we've kind of transitioned to talking a little bit about what the next one, but... Sorry. At the end of this movie, Kylo has basically solidified himself in the dark side. Yes. And
but that doesn't mean you can't come out of it.
It doesn't mean you can't come back, but it would be a weird twist.
Heard of a guy called Darth Vader?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
We'll talk about predictions there. A big surprise in this movie that I think it might have been leaked a little bit beforehand was Yoda. Yoda shows up.
Yoda.
Yoda. How was it for you, like being like a casual Star Wars fan, Was it impactful to see
Yes.
Yoda back?
Heartstrings being pulled. Duh. It's Yoda. I love Yoda.
Even though he's not Baby Yoda?
Oh, Baby Yoda's the best. As I said when he popped up in the Last Jedi. It's old Yoda. That's hard to say. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, I think it was really nice to see him back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps. Yeah, we've got the original characters, but having someone like him come in, it really helps tie things together.
Yeah.
And he looks like he did in the original trilogy.
Yes, I was actually thinking that. I'm like, it's like they pulled out that puppet or whatever
they did.
To use instead of the prequel.
Yep.
Whatever.
That's exactly what they did. They brought the puppeteering back. I don't know if it's the same puppet that was used in the originals. I think they built a new one.
Okay.
But yeah, his whole scene is puppeteered. There's no CG there.
I could see that, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like, he looks like he did in the originals.
Yeah. And that...
Because he's supposed to.
Yeah, which is not only good for continuity's sake there, but also he just looks older in the originals, which is kind of weird considering he's like 900 years old and he's only aged 50 years, but I guess being on a planet by yourself kind of drives you insane. So I could see that, you know.
Right. I mean, we don't really know how aging works for them.
That's true. They could...
I mean, Baby Yoda is supposedly 50 years old.
They could be babies for 50 years, immediately mature into adulthood, are adults for 800 years, and then they rapidly decline in 50.
Bam.
Yeah. I think that he's really nice here. I think he's funny, which he kind of was in the originals. I think he's very wise. And I think that what he says to Luke makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of with you. Luke, I feel like this Luke is the same Luke that we see in the original Star Wars, A New Hope. Mm-hmm. It's that Luke, if he kind of hadn't gone through the stuff in between.
Right.
Like, that's the personality traits I see here.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that Yoda just like calls him out for it, rightfully so, you know, and basically tries to tell him, look, failure is not the end. Mm-hmm. Failure is just part of it. And if you kind of think about it, that's really the story of the Jedi in general, is they rise up, they're powerful, they fail, they go into exile, and then they kind of redeem themselves. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan did that. Yoda did that. Luke has done that. They all do that. Mm-hmm. That's part of the way of life, man.
It's part of the way of the Jedi.
It is part of the way of the Jedi. Screw up, go away, and then come back.
Yep.
So that was like really cool for me. I think that I want to talk about Snoke for a second.
Okay.
Snoke and Kylo Ren. I really like Kylo's descent into darkness. I feel like it really makes sense. I really like how they explained what killing his father did to him, and how, because he wasn't fully committed, it is really eating away at him. And the fact that eats away at him, and, you know, Snoke kind of teases him about that a few times, which is ultimately what forces him to make his stance to kill his master. I like that a lot, and especially as a trajectory for a trilogy. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Right. I would agree with you.
The other cool thing that I'm actually just now noticing is it's not the first time we've seen a Sith kill his master, because Darth Vader technically killed his master, but that was for redemption. Mm-hmm. This is the first time we've seen, technically he's not a Sith, but the first time we've seen a dark Force user kill their master in the way that it's portrayed in Legends, and in the way that it's portrayed in the prequels, when Darth Sidious Palpatine is talking to Anakin, where basically in Legends you have the rule of two, which is there can only ever be two Sith, because if not, there's infighting amongst the Sith for power. And basically what typically happens is the apprentice kills the master to surpass him. And
then raises him an apprentice.
Exactly.
Yes.
To repeat the cycle. And this is the first time we've really seen that, even though they're not Sith, because he uses it not to redeem himself, but to rise to power.
Right.
And I really like that as a story trope, because a lot of people in The Force Awakens had issues with Kylo not being like a Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. And I like that he was conflicted. And I anticipate that going into The Rise of Skywalker, he is committed. He will now be the Darth Vader style character.
I could see that. I haven't really thought of it that way. I guess more because I have hope that it'll end with everyone on the light side.
Even if he's redeemed, I think his character...
We're going to see true evil.
Yeah. It's going to be commitment rather than wavering. Mm-hmm. Which is part of why I'm not exactly sure...
So then maybe he'll kill his mom.
Right.
He will be the one.
Right. That's why I'm not exactly sure if that will redeem him or not. But if that doesn't, I don't know what would.
I don't know.
Yeah. Unless he learned about the truth about kind of what happened with Luke. But I guess that probably still wouldn't do it anyway.
I don't know.
Snoke. Snoke is a very interesting character and is the epitome of Star Wars-ness. He had an appearance in The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. He's only in The Force Awakens for like maybe 3 minutes. It's a very small amount, right?
I thought it was more, but I'll take your word for it.
It's really not, because it's just when they're talking to him via the holograms.
I will say, I know this is like interrupting your spiel, but from like The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, like when you actually get to see him in person, and I remember thinking this before, it's very disappointing that he's not as big as he's portrayed in the holograms, and like this time, it still bothered me. I'm like, he should be so much bigger and more menacing looking.
I never took him as being a giant.
I don't know, I wanted him to be.
I think that's the fake out in The Force Awakens, is you think he is, until you realize it's a hologram.
Because he represents the big bad. Therefore, like...
Hey, look at you.
So he should be big.
Yeah.
But he ain't. All right, go ahead.
So he's only in there for a very little amount of time. It could be 5 minutes. I don't know the exact time, but...
It's 25. No, just kidding.
But he's not in there a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And there's not really anything else about him. Mm-hmm. But between that and The Last Jedi, the fans built him up so much.
Yeah, they did.
If you go back and watch The Force Awakens, he's not built up. There's no mystery built up about him. There's none of that there to help build him up. It's all the fan base that did it.
Well, yeah.
And
because he was such a mystery.
Right.
And it was, oh, who could this be? And I remember all the predictions being made online and everything else. Yeah. Right,
exactly. So when we get to this movie, though, and they kill him, on one hand, I'm like, I wish I knew more about him. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, the people that are outraged that they didn't answer their questions, it's like, that was never in the movies to begin with. They didn't... The mystery of Rey's parentage, that was in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The mystery of who Snoke is was not. That was all behind-the-scenes stuff that was kind of talked about. It was the fan base building it up. And so, like, I get it. Mm-hmm. I do want to know more about him, but I think it's unfounded to be so upset about it when it's really not there to begin with.
Yeah. I will say it is a little disappointing to have him be killed so without having some of those answers. Right. Without, like, seeing him actually being evil.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you really don't know anything about him. It would be nice. However, the way he dies is very cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool death scene.
All right. The end of the movie. Mm-hmm. Luke projecting himself. The battle with Kylo Ren.
Yes.
I know some people are like, that's stupid. Well, one, because it kills him. There's a lot of people that think that. But some people are like, it's stupid because it's like kung fu or whatever, he's kind of hopping around. I think this is great. Mm-hmm. When I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, this is what like a real Force user does when they're using lightsabers. Like, Like, he can just hop around. Like, he doesn't have to stand up because
Right.
he just uses the Force to keep himself up. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way it was portrayed. There are hints as you watch it that tell you he's not actually there.
Right. His haircut.
Well, all of that, but also he doesn't leave footprints. All the other people leave footprints. There's even close-up shots of Kylo Ren leaving footprints.
Right. Because the one guy's like, salt.
Yeah.
You're supposed to notice those things so that it's like subtle hints so that when Luke does arrive, it's like, something's weird.
Right. So, I think the battle is great. The part about him killing him, I actually noticed this time as well. There's a line when Kylo Ren first kind of mentally connects with Rey, where he's like, wait, are you doing this? Oh, no, you can't be, because this would kill you if you did it at this distance. Which, again, is another foreshadowing of Luke is basically doing the same thing, and it, of course, does kill him.
Right. Well, and I think, like, because he's given it his all.
Right, exactly. And even though he's a Force master, kind of, I use that term loosely. I mean, they call him Master Luke, but honestly, he's probably not. He didn't really have a teacher. He's just out there kind of figuring stuff out by himself. I would think that Master Luke, as compared to like a Master Windu or something, is probably not anywhere near the same thing.
Probably not. But also, he talks about, like, Rey even says, you've cut yourself off from the Force.
Right.
So, I mean, and
that's a good point, too.
Like, it has to put a strain on your body when you haven't used the Force. Gosh, what would you say?
Probably 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, maybe like 12 or something, somewhere around there.
Right. So, I mean, that has to be intense. It would make sense that he wouldn't survive that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes complete sense. All right. Do you have anything else to say about this movie?
No.
Okay. I think it's a great movie. Go watch it again, see what you think. Now I want to talk about predictions for The Rise of Skywalker.
Everyone dies. Done.
I agree with you. I think they are going to take a lot of things that fans disagreed.
Oh.
So, yeah, not this. No. I'm talking about earlier. I'm going back.
Not everybody dies.
I think that they're going to take a lot of things that fans were upset with in The Last Jedi and reveal that either it wasn't the case or just give us more information. So I think that we are going to find out who Rey's parents are, and I think they're going to be someone, even if it's not like someone big, and even if they were junk traders or something, I think it's going to be revealed who her parents are. It's going to mean something to us. I think that they are going to reveal more about Snoke and who he was. Maybe not give a full backstory.
Okay.
But I think there will be at least a little bit, even if it's a line drop or something, about who he was. I think it's pretty clear at this point. Luke is coming back as a Force ghost, obviously.
Yes.
Clearly the Emperor is back in some way.
Yeah.
I think he's going to make a physical appearance. I think it's going to be more than a ghost. I think he's going to show up. I don't know if it's a clone.
You know what they need to do?
What?
They need to call Ghostbusters.
No.
Sorry. Okay. Continue.
I don't know how he returns exactly. But I think it's going to be a physical return. What I don't know...
He's the one who hired Snoke.
Well, like, that's kind of a theory, is like he manipulated Snoke into doing what he did. Although, like, if you talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff, apparently Snoke is old enough to have been around for the Republic before Palpatine took control. So I don't exactly know if that's the case.
Okay.
But it could be.
Okay.
What I don't know is if there are going to be other Jedi that show up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Obi-Wan and Yoda showed up.
As Force Ghosts.
But I don't know if they will. I don't know if Anakin will show up.
The whole crew needs to show up. I mean, everybody just needs to show up. That's how you end it.
I mean, well, if we're talking about redemption, if you want Kylo Ren to be redeemed, I could see Anakin showing up as a Force ghost and persuading him. Because, like, that's the whole thing. He wants to be Darth Vader. And if Darth Vader shows up and is like, whoa, man, this isn't right. Because actually, he probably doesn't even know that Darth Vader was redeemed himself. Because there wouldn't be anybody that really knew that except for Luke.
Well, Luke was his master, so why wouldn't Luke share that?
I guess that's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, improving that the light side is the better side.
But why would he be so infatuated with Darth Vader then, if he knew?
Because it's because he is like Darth Vader, where he struggles with inner turmoil of light side and dark side, and it was his grandpa. So he has a special connection with him. And if he was told the stories, he knows that his grandfather struggled with the light and the dark. And if he's also sensing that within himself, it would make sense that he would want to have that connection with him.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. I think it has been confirmed that there's going to be like a gap in time between the two. I think maybe 5 years, which I'm pretty sure I came out of the last movie, the theater, saying they have to do a time skip for the next movie to make any sense. Otherwise, it doesn't work at all. So I'm glad they're doing that because I guess they're the rebels again. They were, so I noticed this. They were the resistance because technically the First Order was, I don't know how to say it, like they're not the government. Like there was a government that was the right thing. And then there was this group that was trying to overthrow. That was the First Order. So they were called the Resistance. In The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, they eradicate the Republic. They eradicate the government. And so they are now the government. So I guess that makes the Resistance the rebels because they make a big deal about calling them the rebels at the end of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever we call them, I think that we'll have grown their ranks by the time the movie starts. I think that the First Order will have a much tighter grasp on the galaxy. And I think that Kylo Ren, like I said earlier, is going to be much more menacing, much more evil than we've seen him before.
I would agree with those things.
Do you have any predictions?
I think a lot of our older characters, original characters, are going to pass away. Leia, C-3PO.
You think C-3PO is going to go?
Yeah, because that one scene.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It makes you want to cry. Yeah, things like that. I think that we're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of our original characters. Kind of finalizing that this is the ending of their saga. It's okay.
That does make sense. I am curious how much of a wrap-up this film's going to be. Because theoretically, this is the last Skywalker movie. This is the last episode-numbered movie that they're ever going to do. I don't know if I really believe that. But if it is, how tightly are they going to wrap it up? Are they going to wrap it up so that no one in this trilogy of trilogies can kind of come back in a movie and they'd have to start something completely new? Or are they going to kind of wrap up this story and leave the characters open so that they can spin them off if they want to?
I think that most of it is going to be wrapped up. I think that, like, the original... Like, that's why I say, like, I think the original characters are going to kind of, like, pass away and end.
Yeah.
Now, like, Finn or Rey or Kylo, some of the newer ones, I could see their storyline potentially being left open for future movies, but they won't necessarily be tied to the Skywalker story. It won't be meant to be connected.
What do you think the title means? The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, I would like it to be... Like, I want Rey to be important. I think most people do. I think it would be really amazing to find out that, like, she is secretly a Skywalker. Somehow. Don't know how. But I think it would be, like, potentially her coming to power. It's probably has something to do with Leia. Or it could be, I don't know, Force Ghost rising. No, I don't know.
There is speculation online that Skywalker in this movie is going to become not a name of a family, but like a title. So that Jedi, as we know them, no longer exists. They are replaced by the Skywalkers, and it is more of a title, like, I am a Skywalker, you know. And that's what carries on. And there's some good arguments for this and other ways that something similar has happened in the past and other franchises and stuff like that. There is a line in The Force Awakens that I thought was interesting, and I didn't write it down, so I don't have it, but it basically references the titles of all three films. Yeah. It was something like, there's something has awoken, something will take us to The Last Jedi, and then something about Rise of, it wasn't Skywalker, but it was Rise of something. And I thought that was interesting. I don't really think that it helps us distinguish what this means. But now that I'm thinking about it, you know, there's the line in Episode 4 where Obi-Wan's like, strike me down and I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. We've never seen that. So what if this is Luke coming back as a Force ghost, more powerful than they can imagine?
Right, and for the fact that, like, we also could see Anakin again. Right. And that would be more than one. Or, not that it doesn't say Skywalkers, it's just Skywalker.
Or, and this is probably a bit of a far-fetched thing as well, because I was thinking, when you said that, I thought, oh, we'll bring back all the Skywalkers. Well, actually, there aren't any. Like, Anakin was the first one, because he was conceived by the Force. Right. What if Skywalker is just the line of people who are conceived by the Force? What if this is like a cyclical thing, where like every few millennia, there is a new chosen one who is conceived by the Force.
And that is why we have Baby Yoda!
That's before all this.
Dang it. I can't keep up.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be a thing. I don't know how you would explain that.
I think it's really weird that people online are speculating that, like, the Jedi will be called Skywalker.
No, it's not that the Jedi will be called Skywalker.
That they will die, and those that are Force users will be known as. I think that's really weird.
You should look it up. Do some reading on it. I think it is interesting, though, that at the last closing moments of The Last Jedi, we see the kid use the Force, which seems to imply that there are more Force users out there, and that they will maybe become part of the rebellion based on his ring. And maybe that's the name of the rebellion, is the Skywalkers at that point. Maybe they name the rebellion after Skywalker because he saved them at the end of this movie.
I could get more behind that.
And now the Resistance is made up of, normal people, but there's more Force users in there as well. So they choose to honor Luke. I don't know. I could see that.
Yeah. I think the other's weird.
I mean, I don't know. We'll just see how it plays out.
Yep.
I had one more prediction I thought of while we were sitting here.
Okay.
So there's a lot of talk in The Last Jedi about balance.
Yes. Powerful
light, powerful dark. And there's kind of been, before they started really talking about that, there was speculation about the same thing in the prequels when they talk about bringing balance to the Force. Because they never define what bringing balance to the Force means.
I see where you're going with this.
So, do you?
Yep. So, all it takes is a snap.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Everything should be perfectly balanced.
As all things should be.
Yes.
So what it seems to imply is that in order for there to be true balance, either neither exist, which we know is not feasible.
Right.
Or there's both. Right? And they have to balance each other out, otherwise it's unbalanced. Even if you have all good, there still has to be evil to balance it. So my prediction in the trailers, we've gotten evil Rey.
Yes, you think it's just like not a vision, but like...
No, I think it's kind of like a vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say like a nightmare, but yeah.
I think it's more like a Force vision. Kind of like Luke got when he went into the forest in episode 5, where he kind of fought Darth Vader, but it was himself kind of thing.
Right.
But my prediction...
She looked cool as a dark user.
She did.
Just saying.
My prediction, though, is by the end of this movie, whoever's left, be it Rey, be it Kylo Ren, whoever, there is no more light side and dark side. They become what is known in Legends as a gray Jedi, which is someone who uses both. Mm-hmm. So it is now balanced. Everything is balanced, but you don't have a light and a dark side together necessarily. You have, if you are a Force user or a Jedi or whatever they call them, you use both. And the fact that you use both makes everything balanced. And that kind of ushers in peace into the universe.
I could see that.
And that is what is called a Skywalker.
Yeah, no. I still don't like it. But whatever.
Okay. You got anything else?
No. I don't think so.
All right. Well, I was going to do what you've been up to, but I haven't been up to anything, really. Have you?
We've been watching a lot of Disney streaming stuff.
Yeah, mostly The Mandalorian.
Yes, and the Imagineering story.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked about that. Or maybe I have. I don't remember.
We highly recommend.
It's probably the best thing on Disney Plus.
Probably better than The Mandalorian.
It is more consistent than The Mandalorian, I can tell you that. But it's only 6 episodes. By the time this is out, all 6 episodes will be out.
Yes.
So you can go on. They're an hour long. They're really good. It's basically about the history of specifically the Disney parks and the people that build them. But it's also kind of a history of Disney in general.
Right. And another thing that recently came out that I started yesterday was the Marvelous Miss Maisel, Season 3. Also a really great show. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
That's about it.
All right. Well, I think that does it. There will not be an episode out next week because The Rise of Skywalker comes out next week. So, our episode on that will be releasing the week after, which I think is the week of Christmas, so it might be a couple days late. We'll see how that shakes out.
Or early, just depending on how things fall.
Or early, yeah. We'll see. We're not exactly sure how that's going to work.
But it will be episode
100!
Yay!
That's right. We finally made it after 2 long, sometimes grueling years. We have made it to episode 100. So we're excited about that. We're glad that we made it. We're glad that The Rise of Skywalker is episode 100. I like for these milestone episodes to be something big. Episode 50 was our special memorial episode for Stan Lee when he passed away. Episode 100 is going to be the closing of the Skywalker saga. I think those are good milestones to use. But
yes,
before we go, we do want to say thank you to Taylor Poole for doing our opening and closing music. You can find him at taylorpoolmusic.com. That's TAYLORPOOLE music.com.
And if you have some free time, head on over to Twitch and check out our friends at CNC Power Hour. They stream Magic the Gathering multiple times a week now.
That is true.
And video games, so check them out if you enjoy that kind of stuff.
Also, please check out our website, cuzornerds.com, where you can find all of the episodes, all 100 plus, because we actually have a few that are not numbered. So all 100 plus episodes. Check them out, share them with your friends. It's a great time. Thanks for listening to Cuz We're Nerds. Stay up to date with all the nerdy news and podcast drops by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also leave us comments and feedback at cuzwerenerds@gmail.com. That's CUZWERENERDS@gmail.com. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, we would love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'll see you next week, and as always, stay nerdy. All right, Courtney, a couple weeks ago, me and Jacob did an impersonations episode.
Nope.
So I want you to give us 2 things.
No.
Balance, as all things should be. So first, I want you to give us your best Darth Vader breathing.
I don't have one.
Just try it.
I don't have one.
Just do it.
There you go.
Oh, come on.
See, doing it makes me cough. It's like... I can't do it.
All right, and to balance that out... There you go.
Luke. Your father I am.
Well, funny you say that, because to balance that out, I want you to do your best Yoda impression.
Do or do not? I can't. I don't know.
No.
I can't hear it.
You got it. Just barrel through.
Do or do not? I can't. Like, I hear it in my head, but I can't. I don't know.
Well, let's try.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Oh, my goodness. You're right. There is no try. You fail.
I want to hear your Yoda.
Oh, no. I already did a whole episode.
But I want to hear your Yoda so then I can do Yoda.
But my throat hurts.
Y'all cheated. You got to hear the people. I did not.
You just watched a movie with Yoda in it.
Yeah, days ago.
Not that many days ago.
Let's hear your Yoda.
It's not going to be good. Because he's like high-pitched and...
I know.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Do or do not. There is no try.
There you go. Clapping all around.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Or, well, actually the week after.
Bye.